Okay, Math 3, we're going to look at angles inside a circle. We've already talked about these first two, so this should go really quick. We know the central angle is equal to the arc. So in this case, it's really simple. The central angle, the vertex is at the center, is going to equal 80. An inscribed angle is equal to half the arc. Alright, so we can see that half of 100 is 50. Now we know it's inscribed because inscribed means the vertex is on the circle. So those are important things to remember, but we've done that last week. Our new information is going to be these two situations. Angles made by chords inside and angles made on the outside. I hope you can see the difference between inside, the vertex is inside the circle, and outside, the vertex is outside the circle. So we'll start with inside. Alright. We found out that the angle made is going to be equal to half the sum of these two arcs. So you can see that these two chords create those two arcs, arcs BD and arc CA, and you can see the arcs BD is 70 degrees and arc CA is 170 degrees. So I'm just going to follow my formula here and write down that x, I'm just going to write down that x equals, my angle is equal to half the sum of the arcs. So I add those two arcs together and do half and I get 120. Now if you want a formula, you can write it down like this. I personally don't like to use a formula in this situation. I like to just think about it as 1/2 the sum, half the sum. We'll check out some outside angles. Looks like this. It's half the difference of the arcs. Okay, so I want you to notice the arcs that were made. It makes arc AE and it makes arc BD. So I'm going to do half the difference of those. That's 1/2, 80 and 20. Of course, I go ahead and subtract those. 80 minus 20 is 60. Half of that is 30. So angle C ends up being 30 degrees. Now again, if you want a formula, you could write it down something like this. And the reason we always do the big arc minus the small arc is because we want our answer to be positive. That's really all there is. I've got a couple examples for you that I'll work through, but that's the end of the notes. So here's some examples. First two I want you to recognize is what type are they? Okay, I notice that the vertex is on my circle. So even though it doesn't look like an inscribed angle, I'm going to treat it just like an inscribed angle because if the vertex is on the circle, it follows the same rules. So an inscribed angle is half the arc. I need to find out what the arc is. That's the arc I would like to know. Of course, I don't know that arc yet, but I do know this is 240, so I can do 360 minus 240 to find out that that arc is 120. And now I just need half of that arc. So that arc is 60. On this side, once again, the vertex is on the circle, so once again, I'm going to follow my inscribed rule. This time it's a little bit more obvious that they've given me the arc I want. I want the arc 120, so I'm going to do half of that 120. And again, the answer is 60. On these next ones, we'll recognize that these vertexes are inside. Okay? These vertices or vertices are on the inside of the circle. So these are a different rule. We're going to follow our inside rule, which is half the sum. Alright. I've got an 80 as one of the arcs, 40 as the other. So I just follow. I got half of 80 plus 40. Following along, that ends up giving me a 60. 60 for that. Now recognize that this angle and this angle right here are vertical, so they're actually the same. Try it again on this other side. Again, it's an inside angle, so I just rewrote the formula. Okay, but this time recognize they actually give me the inside angle. It's 53. So this time my given is the 53. Now the arcs that I don't know are algebraic expressions. So I'm going to use the arcs as algebraic expressions, and from here I'm just going to solve the algebra problem. I've got some like terms that I put together. Okay. You're welcome to go ahead and distribute this 1/2 right now, but since this is a 1/2 and these are both odd numbers, I'll end up with decimals, so I find it's easier to multiply both sides by 2. Multiplying both sides by 2 makes that 1/2 and that 2 cancel away, and it makes all my numbers much easier. Alright, 106 equals 13x minus 11. Solve your algebra, and you find x is 9. If I'm going too fast for you, I do recommend that you just hit pause anytime you need to. I've got about 2% left battery, so I'm trying to finish up. Here we've got a different situation. Notice that this time we are all outside. Every single one of these has an outside vertex. Outside vertex, outside vertex, outside vertex. Now it doesn't matter that this is a tangent and a secant, that these are both secants, that these are both secants, and that these are both tangents. It doesn't matter. As long as the vertex is outside, I'll follow the same rule. So half the difference. You can see that half the difference here, I've got 100 and 30, so I do 100 minus 30. If you follow along, 100 minus 30 is 70, and half of that will give you 35. Over on this side, I've got half the difference again. This time it's the 80 minus 20. Remember where they come from. Well, I didn't highlight it that time. Your 80 is one arc. Your 20 is your other arc. And you end up with 30 for this angle. On this one, they give you a different piece of information. The missing piece is obviously the arc ZY. That's the piece that's missing. 20 is this angle. So I'm clearly missing this piece right here. So I need to write down my formula. Now I know that doesn't look like much of a formula, but it really is the formula. So I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to fill in what I know. Well, I do know the angle this time. Alright. Now I just chose the letter A, the variable A. I didn't want to use an X because it's already had an X, but I just chose the letter A as this missing arc. And now I'm going to solve this. And here, once again, is where you're welcome to use the distributive property, but I find that multiplying by 2 is much faster because it gets those 2 to cancel. Solve this, you end up with negative 40 equals negative A, but of course when I switch that around it gives me the positive A. Okay. Last one, hopefully I can get it in. Alright, notice this time I've only got 2 arcs to deal with. The 260 and the 100. If we follow along, we'll find out that x equals 80. Guys, I know that was fast. Got any questions, let me know. We'll see you tomorrow.